Welcome to Blender add-on development for beginners. In this module, we are going to look at a specific scenario, sending an email after a render job has finished. Let's say we want to start a long-running render job and we want to check the result when we're done. Maybe we need to go to the stores or grab something to eat, but we always have our phone with us, right? So we would like to get an email when the job is done, perhaps with a little summary of the status. That is exactly what we're going to build in this module. And in this first video, we're going to look at how we can be notified when a render job finishes. And we will see this is quite easy thanks to Blender's facilities to register so-called application handlers. In the next video, we will look at how to add user preferences to an add-on. We had a look at this before in the previous video, but here we will take it several steps further. For example, by looking at how we can verify input for validity. The third video then is all about email, and we will see mailing itself is simple because of Python's bundled libraries, but getting everything right, like dealing with passwords in a safe way, needs a lot of attention to details. The final video in this module is rather advanced and therefore optional. Here we look in how to let a user create and save presets, something that is easy for operators, but not so straightforward for collections of properties in the user preferences. Anyway, let's get started. The first thing we need to arrange in our scenario is to act on a trigger when the render job is done. Blender has so-called application handlers for that. These are functions that we register and they will be called when a certain condition occurs, like the start or end of a render job, for example. Let's define a very simple function that will get called when a render job is complete. When called, it will be passed the current scene as its only argument, which in this case we use to print something to the console. We also use the persistent decorator we imported at the beginning to make sure that when we register this handler, it stays registered, even if we load a new blend file. Registration is typically done in the register function of an add-on, and each kind of handler has its own collection in BPY app handlers. And because this is a render complete handler, we append it to the render complete attribute. Later we will create a complete add-on, but here we just add some code so that we can test our handler. We click run script and then go to render animation to see what happens. We are rendering an almost empty scene and in Eevee, so we are done almost immediately, but let's see what we have on the console. And there you have it. The first 3 lines are always produced by Blender, one for each frame, but the last line is the result of our handler and shows the name of the scene. That's nice. Let's see what else we can do. There are loads of different application handlers available, but here we focus on the ones related to render events. There is one for the start of a render job that will also receive the current scene, and one that complements the render complete handler, the render cancel handler, that gets called when the render job is interrupted. The final one we are interested in is the render stats handler. It will be called for every frame in the job and will be passed a string with some statistics. Let's register those new ones. Let's also comment out the first one to prevent registering the same one twice while testing. We then click run script again and repeat our render exercise. We now see all the lines produced by our handlers, mixed with those standard lines from Blender. At the top is the one produced by the render init handler. In the middle we have 3 lines from the stats handler because we have 3 frames in our job, and those lines alternate with those produced by Blender. The stats we get are the time it took from the frame to render and to save it to a file. The final line was produced by our render complete handler. Now that we understand those application handlers, writing one that will mail someone when a render job is finished shouldn't be all that complicated, at least not from an application handler's point of view. If we want to send a mail message to someone, we first need to get some information from the user, like the address of the recipient and the name of the mail server, for example, and that is what we will deal with next in the next video. So thank you for watching and see you in the next one.